Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you. We are broadcasting live on the Callin app. Make sure you subscribe. Chatsports.com/49ers Callin. And a bunch of people are tuned in after the fact on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on Callin. Subscribe to us on the 49ers Report as well. On today's show, I'm going to predict all 53 spots on the San Francisco 49ers roster for the 2022 season for an all-too-early 49ers roster projection. But first, I want to hear from all of you in the comments section on both Callin as well as YouTube. I want you to rank the Niners roster top to bottom in the National Football League from 1 to 32. Keep in mind, 32 teams in the NFL. Where do you think the 49ers roster ranks as a whole from 1 to 32? Get that comment section popping. We start off with the quarterback position. And honestly, projecting the QBs really tough because what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he going to get traded? Is he going to get cut? Or is he going to surprise everybody and return to the Niners? Kyle Shanahan saying on Tuesday that if the Niners don't trade away Jimmy G, he does expect him to come back to training camp to compete for the Niners in 2022. But I do believe that the Niners are going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo and they're going to move forward with Trey Lance. And I think that's the wisest decision to make, to give Lance maximized opportunities to prove that he can be a star after being selected number 3 in the 2021 NFL Draft. So for my roster projection, the 49ers, like they did going into 2021, carry 2 quarterbacks. It's going to be Trey Lance or Nate Sudfeld. Before we get to the running backs, I want to hear from you once more. Will Garoppolo be on the team next year? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. To the running backs now. Another tricky position group because the depth here is really, really quality. Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price, Jeff Wilson, and I'm going Jordan Mason for the upset over JaMycal Hasty because he has more special teams value to be that 5th and final running back to make the 49ers 53-man roster. By all accounts, throughout OTAs, he was impressing people, especially with his ability to catch the football. If he can do that better than JaMycal Hasty in training camp and give this team more special teams value, he could upset JaMycal Hasty and be that 5th running back. Going into last year, the Niners carried 5 backs as well. To wide receivers right now, I've been asked a lot of questions from the audience about the wideouts. I think the Niners are going to carry 6, and I think those 6 names, it's going to be Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, Danny Gray, the rookie, who right now dealing with a strained hamstring during mandatory minicamp, Malik Turner, who makes this team as well. He's popped in limited action with the Seattle Seahawks and Dallas Cowboys. He too can play special teams. And then the special teams ace, one of the big splash signings for the 49ers in free agency, Ray McCloud. He is going to be the punt returner and the kick returner. Last couple of years for Pittsburgh, he was the best in the NFL as a return man, and I think he's going to add a little pop to the special teams unit for San Francisco. Thankfully, we no longer have to worry about any more Jalen Hurd speculation. I'm so happy we don't have to talk about the injury-plagued Jalen Hurd with him making this team. Obviously, he's not even on this roster right now. That is more so a joke. The real ones know. Make sure you subscribe to us here on Callin as we approach 100 subscribers, and subscribe to us on YouTube as we're getting so close to 60,000 subs. The season coming up right around the corner. Training camp coming your way in July. We push out videos every single day. So for Callin, it's chatsports.com/49ers Callin. For YouTube, it's youtube.com/49ers TV. To all of you who support us, thank you so much. Tight end now, then offensive line, then we'll shift to defense. 3 tight ends: George Kittle, Ross Dwelley, Charlie Warner. That's pretty easy. Offensive line, it got hairy here, and I really had to go back and forth with my general manager hat on. There are some obvious names, of course. Trent Williams, highest graded player according to Pro Football Focus last year. He's a shoo-in to make this team. I also have Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Daniel Brunskill, and Mike McGlinchey. That right now is my starting offensive line going into this year. The backups: Jalen Moore, Spencer Burford, the selection this year, and Donovan West as a UDFA as the backup center. Things could change here. Is Jake Brendel going to be the starting center after the retirement of Alex Mack? We'll see, but right now, he's the first-string center, so he has to make my football team. And who's the backup? I think the best guy for that is Donovan West, with Daniel Brunskill playing both center as well as guard. Jason Poe, Nick Sakel, who was drafted this year, they go to the practice squad. there might be some surprise cuts for the 49ers throughout this process, throughout training camp. So get into the comment section right now and give me a surprise cut down below. We shift to the defensive side of the football right now on probably the most stacked defensive line in the NFL, in my opinion. A lot of guys making the team here. Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Drake Jackson, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, Kamoko Ture, Hassan Ridgeway, Maurice Hurst, Jordan Willis, and Kerry Hyder. Chris Kosaric, D'Amico Ryans going to have a lot of talent at that position. They're going to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback, and because of that, I think the Niners could boost one of the best defenses in the NFL in 2022. Linebackers, Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shire, Dre Greenlaw, and Oren Burks. I don't want Oren Burks playing a lot as a linebacker, but it gives this team a lot of special teams value. And last year, San Francisco, one of the worst special teams units last year in coverage and in the return game. Oren Burks going to help turn that around. No Demetrius Flanagan-Foles because I go with an additional secondary member, which is coming your way right now. Niners have their number one cornerback in Charvarius Ward. Emmanuel Mosley also makes my team. So too does Jimmy Ward, Talanoa Hufanga, Ambry Thomas. Jason Verrett makes the squad coming off the torn ACL as a feel-good story. Diamador Lenore, big year two coming up. George Odom, another special teams player and a backup safety. Sam Womack out of Toledo, the rookie. And I go Dante Johnson, who's been turning some heads throughout this offseason, over Tariq Castro-Fields, who was drafted late out of Penn State. I like Castro-Fields, 4'3" guy, has long arms, kind of has a game similar to Richard Sherman, but he's a little bit raw right now and can get beat and is a little bit over-aggressive. So the hope here is that by not making the team, you can get Tariq Castro-Fields on your practice squad. 3 more roster spots to get to. Special teamers, they are people too. Robbie Gould, clutchest kicker in the NFL. Yes, even better than Justin Tucker. Has not missed in the playoffs. Mitch Wishnowsky is your punter. Tabor Pepper is your long snapper. And I'm not listing punt return and kick return guys as members of the 53-man roster because Ray McCloud is already making the team as a wide receiver. But of note, Ray McCloud makes the team, and he is going to be the go-to punt returner and the kick returner with Brandon Ayuk backing him up. Before we hop on out of here in this segment and start taking your calls, the cut is going to continue. How did I do? A, B, C, D, or F on my all-too-early roster prediction and projection. Let me know in the comment section on Callin as well as on YouTube, and we're going to take some calls really quickly on the show. We start off with Paleo. Going to make you the next caller and the first caller right here on the 49ers Report. Make sure you unmute yourself by hitting that microphone icon at the bottom of your screen and ask away, my man.
Yeah, Chase, Bears fan here. With the week 1 matchup being 49ers versus Bears, have you been hearing the talk that could be a toss-up game and the Bears could give the run for the money for the 49ers? Like, what do you think is going to happen with that game?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I love looking ahead. Paleo, appreciate you tuning in and listening to the 49ers Report. As a Chicago Bears fan, you probably got told to come over here by Harrison Graham, so good looks on joining the show. I think that in week 1, Chicago Bears, San Francisco, one of the most exciting matchups on that week 1 slate. And you look at the two teams. 49ers, they made it to the NFC Championship game last year. Chicago Bears still kind of rebuilding. But from this standpoint, I'm excited about this matchup. Why? We get Trey Lance and we get Justin Fields, 2 members of the 2021 NFL draft class. And which young quarterback is going to play better? Is it going to be Justin Fields out-dueling Trey Lance after Fields was taken after Lance and the Niners could have taken Fields? Or is it going to be Trey Lance proving the doubters wrong and playing better than Justin Fields? For the sole reason of us watching young quarterbacks, I think it's one of the most intriguing matchups in week 1 of the 2022 slate because I love evaluating young quarterbacks, and we're going to have an opportunity to see both of these guys, hopefully, as the long-term starters and not them kind of being hovered over by Andy Dalton last year for Fields' case, and then Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance for the 49ers case. So, Paleo, I agree, man. Week 1 matchup between the Bears and the Niners is going to be awesome. Matthew, you're next up on the 49ers Report. Going to make you the next caller. What do you got?
Hey, Chase, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up, man?
Awesome. So, how long do you think the 49ers can sustain being in playoff contention, because for some reason I'm getting some eerie vibes to how the Harbaugh era ended, where after one Super Bowl appearance and an NFC Championship appearance, slowly but surely the quality of our roster went down, with Patrick Willis retiring. I remember Chris Borland, after he had a solid year, he retired. Navarro Bowman eventually left. I don't know, for some reason I'm getting that it might start to slowly decline soon, because George Kittle's getting older, Trent Williams is getting older, Alex Mack just retired. So I want to know your thoughts on that. I hope I'm wrong, but
No, Matthew, it's a great point. Thank you so much for your call, and it's an excellent question. And it's funny because I'm sure you asked that in part because the 49ers, you look at the trajectory and the path of this franchise. Under Harbaugh, they're competing for Super Bowls, and right away after he took over that regime. Then after him, it was a disaster. Jim Tomsula, as well as Chip Kelly, a couple of down years. And the start of Kyle Shanahan, they had to reboot the franchise. Then they got back into Super Bowl contention. Then in 2020, they went downhill again. I think that was mostly in part because the 49ers suffering a bunch of injuries. But with the roster construction that's taken place, I think the Niners are going to be able to compete for the next several years. You look at this team right now. Yes, Trent Williams is a little bit older, but he's still playing really dominant football. I think he still has a lot of gas left in the tank. Along that offensive line, you've addressed the offensive line in the future by drafting guys like Aaron Banks, as well as Spencer Burford, Jalen Moore, and a couple of other young players along that offensive line. At wide receiver, Deebo Samuel young, Brandon Ayuk young, Jawan Jennings still in his rookie contract, George Kittle. Yeah, he's a little bit injury prone, but he's on the back end of his 20s, and tight ends can play for a little while, especially Kittle if he's able to stay healthy. Trey Lance is only 22 years old. That's on the offensive side of the ball. You go to defense, right? Eric Armstead, still in his prime. Nick Bosa, under his rookie contract. You replenish a little bit with Drake Jackson. Fred Warner is in his mid-20s. Azeez Al-Shire, Dre Greenlaw, also young players. You recharge a little bit with Charvarius Ward, a big reason why I like giving him $14 million per year. He's in his mid-20s. You draft Samuel Womack. You get Tariq Castro-Fields, Deommodore Lenoir, Ambry Thomas. All of those guys are young. If anything, the concerns are at that safety spot on this defense, with Jimmy Ward progressing a little bit, and he doesn't have a lot of stability on the back end of his contract. Talanoa Hufanga, though, is young. And then you have Kyle Shanahan, who's still one of the youngest, upstart, and brightest offensive minds in the NFL. So I think this team is a little bit different than that Harbaugh era, Matthew, because they are set up a little bit better than they were back then in that 2012 range when they made it to the Super Bowl against the Baltimore Ravens, because they've replenished the talent a little bit. They've addressed some areas of need on the roster, and I think this team is going to be pretty solid moving forward over the next couple of years. Grade the 49ers roster for me once more. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know. My final question here on YouTube if you're watching after the fact, and you can also get those comments in here on Callin.